Man Hour Nation, it's time to get shocked. And what is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Buckhouse here with the Man Hour. We start every morning with the Daily Shocked, and today's Shocked is no different. It's a little bit of controversy this, a little bit of that, a little bit of bing, bada boom, bada bing, ba 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 ba. You know how it is. But if you guys do not know, there are several things happening here in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs are looking to possibly get a new stadium. The Buffalo Bills are getting a brand new stadium. But I was trolling the old Twitter webs and YouTubes and whatnot, watching other shows and interacting with them and whatnot. Nick Wright has a YouTube show now, which is kind of surprising to me, but whatever. He says if the Kansas City Chiefs move to Kansas from Arrowhead Stadium, that he would no longer be a Kansas City Chiefs fan. You heard that right. If Kansas City Chiefs move to Kansas and a brand new stadium, he will no longer be Kansas City Chiefs fans. Well, guess what, Mr. Nick Wright? We don't want you as a... Back up. He did put a disclaimer on that. He said he would no longer be a Kansas City Chiefs fans until Patrick Mahomes leaves the Chiefs, and then he would no longer be a Chiefs fan. So therefore, that tells you we don't want Nick Wright on our fandom duel stuff anyways. Let's just be flat out honest about that. But to say that you will no longer support a team because they switch states, we're right there on the freaking state line. We're literally like 15 minutes from Kansas anyways, right? And when you look at Arrowhead right now, it's literally in the middle of the freaking cornfield. They have a Taco Bell across the street, and then they have a Cocoa Keys or some indoor water park hotel that's it's dungy and nasty anyways. Of course they want to move from Arrowhead. Yes, it is the loudest stadium in the world, but you know what? The fans make it, not that stadium. Build a brand new stadium, make it more ergonomical or whatever it's called to make that noise get down in there like they did at Sporting KC Park. I mean, come on. But come on, guys, to no longer be a fan because a team decides to change stadiums, switch states or whatever. Get over yourself, Nick Wright. Get over yourself. But Man Hour Nation, are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You don't want to be every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that then. While I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know what's coming to the sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, still listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches, won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live, all 3 speakers go.
And what is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Buckhouse here with the Man Hour. If you be most inclined tonight, head over to manhourradio.com. Check out the blog section. Check out the merchandise section. Check out the clips section over like over there. I now have the clips organized out there, so you can click on your team. You can click on, hey, I want to learn about the Buffalo Bills. Click on the Buffalo Bills. We'll see what Buck has to say about the Buffalo Bills. It'll take you to everything that we've ever talked about the Buffalo Bills in the last year of the Man Hour here. And guys, we got a mediocre show for you today. I can't bluff. No, I'm kidding, guys. I always try to put on the best damn sports show out there. I do got my man Beastie Combs coming up here on hour number 2 on the phones. Excited to talk about, or to talk with him, not about him, talk with him. Coming up here, we got a great interview that Combs did with Bob Picozzi. He was a voice of NCAA sports for a very, very long time. Combs sat down here with him for about a half hour, 45 minutes. So, guys, sit back and buckle up for that. We got that interview coming up here in about a half hour right here on the Man Hour. We got top 5 offseason moves that I think so far that have happened the first couple weeks of the NFL free agency. What else do we got here? What do we got here? We got Fact or Crap. Today is Thursday, April 7th here, 2022. We got Fact or Crap coming up. I got 6 Facts or Craps lined up. And then, of course, we're going to talk to Combs at 7:15 East Coast time right here on youtube.com/Man Hour about some opening day, because today is opening day. So happy opening day to everybody that is, Major League Baseball fans. So we got some burning questions to ask Combsy and whatnot. And guys, man, I am fired up. I mean, Thursdays are like by far the best day of the week. Let's just be flat out honest, because when you sit back and you think about it, Thursdays, you're over that hump, right? You can see the end. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you get the most work done at work. It is the most productive work day of the whole work week, because once you come to Friday, you're like, oh, the weekend's here. I'm not going to do crap all day. Once that noon hits, I'm done. But if you guys do have access to a computer between 8 and 3 p.m. East Coast times, be sure to head up to bellyup.tv. You can check out your boys' Man Hour over there at 8 a.m. East Coast time and 3 p.m. East Coast time right there on bellyup.tv. Also, if you have Roku and Apple TV, they do have video on demand, so you guys can always check us out over there as well. Or, of course, iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio and all the good stuff over there. But bellyup.tv is where all the magic happens right here on the Man Hour. But let's get the show started, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody with a butthole, so we don't offend anybody, right? We don't offend anybody. Some big news happened in the NFL yesterday after some stuff started leaking out that Stefon Diggs was unhappy with his contractual obligations in Buffalo. Shortly after that, boom. Hey, man. The Buffalo Bills said, hold my beer. Stefon Diggs, let's give you $70 million guaranteed. The deal is up worth to like $107 million with incentives, but $21.1 million on a sign-on bonus with an extra, $50-some million guaranteed money. So he is guaranteed $70 million with the Buffalo Bills over the next several years when he signed his contract extension. Man, well, first things first, man, is where are all these teams getting to pay these players, right? Because Josh Allen is going to be up for a pretty big contract here. They just gave Von Miller $120 million. They give Stefon Diggs $100 million, right? So the Buffalo Bills are building to win right now. This is a good signing for them. Stefon Diggs is a hell of a wide receiver. Let's flashback when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. He did some out-of-this-world stuff. It is absolutely crazy, some of the stuff that he was able to do. Let's think of the miracle catch, right? When he one-hand that thing out of the air and ran into the end zone to beat the Saints. I mean, it was just crazy stuff that he is able to do. But for the Buffalo Bills to lock up Stefon Diggs for the next several years, with Josh Allen still in his prime, Stefon Diggs still in his prime, and his high-flying offense, they are definitely trying to build a championship or win a championship right now in Buffalo. So if you are a Buffalo Bills fan, you guys should be very, very excited. Yes, I dogged on the Von Miller signing here, but this Stefon Diggs signing is actually very, very big. I got a freaking splinter on my hoodie. That's weird. But, yeah, I mean, This is great for the state of New York, the city of Buffalo, and the western part of New York in general, right? You guys are getting a $700 million stadium. You got Josh Allen locked in. You got Stefon Diggs locked in, and you have a team that's built to win right now. They are doing everything they can to, bring a championship to the Buffalo Bills organization. Hopefully, you guys don't get to 4 Super Bowls and lose all 4 of them again. But hey, I don't kill the messenger. So huge congratulations to the Buffalo Bills. They are obviously staying put in New York. There's been lots of rumors of them surrounding about leaving and going to Canada or, possibly moving to other places. But with the new stadium being built, Stefon Diggs getting locked in, they are obviously there for the long haul. So my man Alpha Rob, your Buffalo Bills are doing good things, man, and I am excited for you and I'm happy for you. So my man Alpha, you do you, baby. So this offseason has been really exciting, right? That mean the Buffalo Bills are making big moves. The Miami Dolphins made a semi-big move, right? We talked about the worst 5 moves earlier this week. One, signing Aaron Rodgers, losing Devontae Adams, right? And we're not going to go through all of them because I don't have the list in front of me. But right now, I'm going to give you guys the 5 top moves that I think have happened so far in this NFL free agency, this offseason period before the draft, right? We are 2 weeks away from the draft, 3 weeks away from the draft. So it's going to start to die down a little bit here, I think. But so far, these are my top 5 moves so far in this NFL offseason. Top move number one. Obviously, it's got to be Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns. Basically, anybody that was going to get Deshaun Watson was going to be the best move of this off season. It didn't matter if you gave up 15 picks or 2 picks. This was the best move. Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Deshaun Watson instantly makes your team better. Now, slow it down, Browns fans. I'm not saying you guys are going to the Super Bowl by any means, but definitely makes your team much improved. So Deshaun Watson has never had a team like this around him before. Even if you look back at Houston with like Randall Cobb, Will Fuller V, right? All those Duke Johnson and even Hopkins, right? He has never had a team like this, built like this, ready to win right now. That means, like, obviously he is a top 5 quarterback in the league. They have a great 1-2 punch in Chubb and Hunt. With the electricity of Watson brings to that backfield, and you have Hunt and Chubb still. Wow, look out for that dynamic duo back there. The wide receiver core is kind of suspect right now, but they did pick up Amari Cooper, and if Amari Cooper can be even 80% of his prime, that is going to be huge for Deshaun Watson, 100%. And they got a damn good defense. This defense might be, is it? Let's sit back and ponder this. Is this the best defense in the AFC North right now? Obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers have TJ Watt and that whole crew, right, is pretty good. The Ravens are obviously historically known for their defense, but I don't think they're the best. The Bengals are there-ish. If they add Tyrann Mathieu, maybe. We'll talk about that later. So the Browns might have the best defense in the AFC North. And then you add a quarterback like Deshaun Watson on that team. It's a very, very good move. It is a great move. It is the best move of this offseason so far. Browns fans, I still got to tell you guys, pump your brakes a little bit. You are not going to win the Super Bowl. You probably won't even make it to the Super Bowl, and you'll be lucky to get past the first round of the playoffs, but it's still a great move. It is still a great pickup for build long-term longevity. But this is also the biggest this Deshaun Watson trade, obviously, is so high risk, but it's also high reward as well. Meaning, what is the risk? Well, what if Deshaun Watson isn't like his self when he was in Houston, when he was at the MVP level with that 3-win team, right? He was great, right? Let's say he only lasts 2 years there. You guys gave this man $240 million, and I believe the dead cap hit is like $80 million if he doesn't play out his contract. So very, very high risk, but there is a lot of upside as well. Is it a Super Bowl upside? Not this year, not next year. They have to do well in the draft, and they have to get some wide receiver help. Like Amari Cooper is a great piece, additional. Too bad it wasn't 5 years ago. That is all I'm going to say with that one right there. Now, number 2. Best free agency move number 2 is Davante Adams to the Raiders. Now, we spoke yesterday how bad the Packers were by losing Davante Adams. That makes his Raiders pickup that much better the Davante Adams is that much better for the Raiders. They only gave up a first round and a second round pick for Davante Adams. That is not life-changing one way or the other, because let's just be honest, the Raiders are not very good at drafting anyways. They will draft 15 receivers in the first round and they'll cut them all like the next year. That's just the Raiders' MO at the end of the day. So for only giving up a first and second round pick for a player like Davante Adams, the best receiver in all of NFL, great job on that pickup. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. And to team up with Derek Carr, yes, it is a good deal. But on the flip side of that coin, this is Derek Carr's final year of the contract, of his contract. And Josh McDaniels says they're nowhere close to extending Derek Carr. So this trade might come back and bite them in the ass because, they don't have a lot of money. But we'll talk about that in Factor Crap coming up here in just about a half hour right here on the Man Hour. Now, off-season move number 3. This is the third best off-season move, and it wasn't really an off-season move. It was just somebody coming back, right? It was Tom Brady retiring and then unretiring. Why is this so great? Because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were starting to lose a lot of players, right? They obviously lost Rolo Jones. I think that's what his nickname is, like Rolo, right? But it's Jones. He signed with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Chris Godwin was testing the free agency market. Yes, the Buccaneers gave him a big contract. It was $100 million, wasn't it, if I'm not mistaken? And then, Leonard Fournette was looking to move, and who knows what Mike Evans was going to do. I know he was locked in, but people were jumping ship. And then Tom Brady says, I spent enough time with my kiddos. It is time to come back and play some football. So that was the third best offseason move so far, was Tom Brady unretiring. By Tom Brady unretiring, that instantly puts the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the Super Bowl conversation. Instantly puts them back in the Super Bowl conversation. If Tom Brady isn't the quarterback of that team, they're probably a 500 team. Depending on what quarterback they got, if they're going to go with Blaine Gabbert or they drafted Kyle Trask, right? If they would have got somebody in free agency, Jimmy G, or Mitchell Trubisky was obviously out there too. So it depends on what quarterback would have landed there, but they would have been a 500 team, a sub 500 team. They would have been 8-9 at best. So with Tom Brady coming back, it instantly puts him in Super Bowl contention. Probably second, third best team in the NFC, behind the Packers and 49ers. So, that obviously is the third best move of this off season. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, right? Just a little bit tricky. Number 4 is the LA Chargers. They got Khalil Mack. Now, I like the move on paper. You team him up with Joey Bosa. You boast up that defense with a high-flying AFC West offense, right? The Denver Broncos got a lot better with Russ, possibly. The Raiders are good with Davante Adams. You still got the Chiefs, so you really need to boost that defensive side, and adding Khalil Mack, a player like Khalil Mack definitely helps your pass rush, right? And it helps take double teams off of Joey Bosa as well. So I do like this move if Khalil Mack can perform like we are used to seeing him perform, not last year, but the previous years. Like last year, I was not very impressed with him. I don't know if he just lost his drive, lost his will. Maybe the double team started to wear him down, but I was not impressed as much as I was like previously. Now, is that because you start to expect so much out of a player, and when he just does a little bit less, you're like, oh, what happened to him, right? I mean, that could definitely be it. But this is a great move. This is the fourth best move of the 2022 NFL offseason is Khalil Mack to the LA Chargers. Now, number 5. When you think of this move, we all see the surface. We see Pro Bowl Tyreek Hill go to Miami, right? I don't think that is the fifth best move this offseason. The fifth best move was Kansas City trading Tyreek Hill. Why? They got 5 draft picks in return. 5 draft picks in return. They also signed Juju Smith-Schuster. They also signed MSV, right? And then they had the ability to move up in this year's draft and to get a wide receiver like Tyreek Hill in this year's draft. There are several of them that have his speed, have his capabilities, but better route running skills. We are in the world right now where your team is going to have a 3 to 4 year window to win a lot of games, win playoffs, win Super Bowls. You have to be able to draft well and win almost instantly. So when you get 5 draft picks like the Kansas City Chiefs did, they have the ability to retool their team right now, get 4 or 5 really good rookie players, and win on their rookie deals while Patrick Mahomes is making his $50 million a year, while other players are, making $40, $50 million as well. The Kansas City Chiefs are a team that is going to have to retool every 3 to 4 years, let a player like Tyreek Hill go and his peak in his prime, get 4 to 5 picks in return, and then retool again. The Buffalo Bills are going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to probably see the Raiders do the same thing because of the fact that they are paying these massive contracts to 2, 3, 4 players, so they have to do that. This was a great move for the Kansas City Chiefs, getting 5 draft picks for a 29-year-old receiver. Let's just be honest. Receiver life in the NFL is about 32, 33 years old. So Tyreek Hill has about 2-3 years left in him good. And what makes him so explosive is his speed. Once you start to get older, what diminishes first is your speed. So Tyreek Hill trade is great for Kansas City, and that is why it is my 5th best off-season move so far. So guys, with that being said, that takes me up to the first break of the night, or of the morning. I'm so used to night. First break of the morning. On the other side of the break, guys, we got Fact or Crack, brought to you by Sparked Energy Drink. Link is in the description. Spark Energy, get sparked. Sorry, get shocked. Shocked Energy. They have a Spark mixer that I have. So I will show you guys that next week when my nasal spray comes in. I'm really excited to try that, see how it is. We'll get a live instant review to see how it feels, see whatever, because I'm not a huge fan of snorting stuff, but so we'll see how that is. But Shocked Energy, Factor Crap, guys, coming up here right after this break on Man Hour. Stay tuned.
Brooks Roofing and Siding. Contact them at 812-868-7663 or online at brooksroofingin.com. Brooks Roofing and Siding, protection you need when nature strikes.
And welcome back to the Man Hour, guys. Michael Buckeister here with the Man Hour. You can find me on the old Twitter machine at manhour_buck. Of course, you can go to manhourradio.com. Check out the merchandise page, guys. Support our show. You can get a hoodie, you can get a hat, you can get a t-shirt. Just help us build what we're trying to build here on the Man Hour. Also, guys, if you are enjoying the morning show here, let me know, because we are taking the afternoons off here until June or July-ish, because just life is crazy right now for myself and Combs, me being a t-ball coach and Combs speeding up with like work and stuff like that. So I'm doing solo here right here in the morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. East Coast time right here on youtube.com. So guys, as my man Rule the Jungle is in the set, like he says, how are you liking the solo stuff, Buck? I'm getting adjusted to it a little bit, right? Obviously doing a solo show is very hard. You have to talk to yourself, interviews and like all that stuff, but obviously the interaction in the comment section helps a lot. So if you guys are watching this, share it. Get more people in here. We usually have a great conversation at night. We're trying to bring that into the morning show. Yes, I know it's 6 a.m. Was it like 2 a.m. on California time or like whatever? Like, I get it. It is early. So, but yeah, jump on board here. So you can find me on Twitter at manhour_buck. And of course, you can find Man Hour Radio Show at manhour_sports on Twitter as well. But this is where we get all of our ways or no ways. Ain't no time for that. Factor Crap and Would You Rather is on the Twitter machine. So tweet at me at manhour_buck and give me a hashtag fact or crap. And Factor Crap is basically just what it is. You give me a statement and I'll let you know if I think it is fact or crap. Pretty cut and dry, pretty simple, right? So the first Factor Crap of the morning here, Tyrann Mathieu. So obviously Tyrann Mathieu is a free agent right now. He used to be the Kansas City Chiefs strong safety. Very, very locked down guy for the Kansas City Chiefs, like the leader on and off, like off the field. He's not trying to troll the fans on Twitter, but we digress from that. This Factor Crap. Tyrann Mathieu makes any team that he goes to instantly better. Wow. Any team that he goes to makes them instantly better. I want to say crap on that. I do like Tyrann Mathieu. I have a Tyrann Mathieu jersey. I love the Honey Badger on the Kansas City Chiefs. He did great things for us on the Kansas City Chiefs defensive side of the ball when he was in there. But he is what? 29, 30 years old, right? He did not stay healthy for his last season. The previous year, he had like a little bit of injuries as well. So I feel like the injury bug is starting to creep up on him a little bit. Also, on the flip side of that, we're now in week 3 of NFL off season, and nobody has signed him yet. And every day he is dropping hints of like, I'm here, I'm there. But why has nobody come out and said, we offered him this, we offered him that? Supposedly he's been in Pittsburgh. Supposedly he's been in Saints land, right? I hear the Cincinnati Bengals want him as well. But do they instantly make him? Does he instantly make a team better? That is absolutely crap. I don't think he does. Will he be a great center stone, be a great piece for a good defensive team? Yes. He will help elevate an already good defensive team, but if he goes to a bad defensive team, the Detroit Lions, the Jets, Giants, Jaguars, no. So, no, he does not make any team instantly better. There are a handful of teams he will make better, yes, but every team, no. That is 100% crap on that one. Next factor crap. If you guys have a factor crap for me, you can hit me up on Twitter at manhour_buck. Give me hashtag fact or crap. Next factor crap. Steelers will draft a quarterback this season. Or this draft, I should say. So the Pittsburgh Steelers did get Mitchell Trubisky in the free agency. They also have Dwayne Haskins, and they got Mason Rudolph in the quarterback room as well, so that they have 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now. However, Mason Rudolph is not a starter by any means. He's a good backup. He's a good placeholder for a few games, right? Until he gets his head crushed in by Myles Garrett again, or whoever it was. I can't remember who it was, but Dwayne Haskins, he still has a lot to prove. He has a lot of growing up to. He's very immature, as we saw in Washington when he was their starting quarterback, going to strip clubs during COVID and like whatnot. And Mitchell Trubisky, I think that he was a steal. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers got him at a very good bargain price, and he is going to do well in Pittsburgh. But if you have the opportunity to draft a Desmond Ridder in the 2nd round or early 3rd round even, I don't think you can pass that opportunity up. I think Desmond Ridder, after watching more tape on him, talking to these draft experts that are out there on Belly Up Sports, right? I think Desmond Ridder has the most upside of any of these quarterbacks in the NFL or in the draft. I should say. So will the Pittsburgh Steelers draft a quarterback this year? My gut tells me they have one person in mind. If that person falls to them in the 2nd round, early third round, I don't know where they're drafting those 2 rounds. But if their guy falls to him, yes, they will pick a quarterback. Will they draft a quarterback in the 1st round? No. I think that is crap. I do not think they will draft a quarterback in the 1st round. But if their guy falls to the 2nd or 3rd round, they will draft him. So that's waffling around the answer. So I'm going to give you a direct answer. No, they will not draft a quarterback this year. They have faith in Mitchell Trubisky. And if they don't have faith in Mitchell Trubisky, they still have Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. That was a starter for what? 6-7 games, I think it was. So, I mean, no, they're not going to draft a quarterback. Next one up here. Next fact or crap right here, brought to you by Shocked Energy Drink. Link is in the description. Get some Shocked Energy. Get your mind right. 0 carbs, 0 sugar on that. Derek Carr is the 15th highest paid quarterback in the league so far, but no long-term deal talks have been happening as of yet, per Josh McDaniels. Fact or crap? The Las Vegas Raiders will be horrible without Derek Carr. Whoa. Fact or crap? The Las Vegas Raiders will be horrible without Derek Carr. Now, since Marcus Mariota is no longer their backup quarterback, I don't know who their backup quarterback is, right? So obviously Derek Carr is going to be there for this season. So I think we're talking about next season and beyond, right? The 2023 season and beyond. Wow. I think Derek Carr is the most underrated quarterback in the whole NFL. More underrated than Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz. I think he has gotten better each and every year he has been in the NFL, but every year he gets bombarded with trade rumors. John Gruden not liking him, and now Josh McDaniels not liking him either. So it is very, man, to say that the Raiders will be horrible without him, it depends if they go with the rookie quarterback or if they are looking for a veteran. Jimmy G comes to mind because Jimmy G will be playing for the San Francisco 49ers this year. But next year, his 2-year contract with the no trade clause will be expired, and they drafted Trey Lance, right? So Jimmy G, I think he would fit well in Raider land with Josh McDaniels. You know, They have some history, right? Wow. I'm going to go with crap. I don't think the Raiders will be horrible without Derek Carr. They will probably be right where they're at right now because I think they almost have a plug and play offense like built around him with Devontae Adams and I can't think of their running back name right now, but they have a lot of core pieces built around in that offense, and you can plug and play a quarterback. So I'm going to go with crap. I think they will still be their 8-9, 9-8, 8 cells without Derek Carr. So crap. Oh man, guys, for some reason I'm just kind of weird today. Oh well. Next crap or crap. Next fact or crap coming up here. This is pointed toward Arizona Cardinals here. Since Kyler Murray has removed all of his forms or all of his associations with the Arizona Cardinals on social media, the Arizona Cardinals will draft his replacement this year in the draft. Ooh. Man, there are a few Kyler Murray-ish quarterbacks in this year's draft, right? Malik comes to mind, the kid from Liberty. I don't think they'll draft Carroll. Desmond Ridder looks a lot like Kyler Murray. Wow. Draft his replacement. I'm going to go with crap on this one as well. I think Kyler Murray is just throwing a immature tantrum right now. He will come out and play this year with the chip on his shoulder, show the NFL that what he's capable of doing or not capable of doing. So this year I'm going to go with no, they're not going to draft his replacement, but you got to play well, Kyler, this year. You got to play well. All righty, so the next factor crap before we got an interview with Bob Picosi coming up. Really excited about that. But factor crap, the Detroit Lions will win the AFC North. The Detroit Lions will win the NFC North. Wow. Every time the last 2 seasons I picked the Detroit Lions to do well, they've shit the bed. But the Green Bay Packers did not get better this offseason so far. They're transitioning to a running game or whatever it is. That's completely stupid. The Chicago Bears are not going to be good. The Vikings, they got a new coach, so I don't know what to quite expect from them. They still have a pretty good quarterback in Kirk Cousins. They have JJ. They have the running back slipping my mind there too, man. I'm pulling a Combs this morning. The Detroit Lions will win the NFC North. Factor crap. Wow. I'm gonna go with crap on this one. Obviously, it is the Green Bay Packers division to lose. They still have Aaron freaking Rodgers. They still have their running back as well, right? Adams. Man, I'm going to go with crap. I'm going to stick with it. And I'm going to go out on a limb, a way too early limb, a way too pre-early limb here. But I think the Minnesota Vikings win the NFC North this year. So crap. The Detroit Lions do not win the NFC North. They do not win the NFC North. So crap to your statement there. So guys, that is going to be it for fact or crap. Brought to you by Shocked Energy. Link is in the description if you guys want a low calorie or 0 calorie, 0 sugar energy drink. people like me that have high cholesterol, we need to bring that cholesterol down. We need to cut back on the sweets and sugars and like all that stuff. Shocked Energy is a perfect way to do that. But guys, we are going to go take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we got the interview with Bob Picozzi. Sit back, relax, and enjoy, guys. We'll be right back.
Commissioner Cooper from TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. That means we give the people what they want. Expert fantasy advice, leading medical and legal analysis, free contests, and innovative games to keep you entertained. Watch us live with the Tiki Live app on the Belly Up Sports channel, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on all social media platforms. Visit TSSFantasy.com today for all the latest updates from the fantasy show of the people. We put the fun in fantasy.
Yeah!
Said the mayo.
Over sour cream, yeah.
Right. That's because you have high cholesterol. Okay. If you drafted Julio Jones,
You got ghosted.
This is amazing. TSS Fantasy is like an orgasm. If I had a cigarette, I'd smoke it. I'm pumped to be here. This is the show of shows.
TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
I was built to last when the webs are weaving. I could change the past. I'm achieving. Got my foot on the gas. Never stop competing. If you break my fast, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quench the thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic. Go! To last with the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing.
All right, Man Hour Nation, welcome back to the show. I am very honored right now to be able to have a guest on with me at this time. Retired play-by-play man, 40-plus years in the business. If you ask me, he's one of the best to ever do it. His name is Bob Picozzi. Bob, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Brandon. It's snowing here today, but I've lived in New England since 1973, so I'm almost getting used to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm here in Chicago, and I spent like 15 years up in Vermont, so I know all about cold and snow and all that other good stuff. One of the big reasons why I can't wait to hopefully move southeast at some point in my life.
So you decided to escape the snow and move to tropical Chicago. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in Chicago and then went to Marine Corps. And after the Marine Corps, I spent about 15 years up in Vermont. So, I've always been a cold weather guy, unfortunately, because I really do hate the snow, even though I've never moved out of it. But it's definitely not for me. I'm a warm weather guy. I'm a baseball guy, so I like the summer, Bob.
Yeah, so do I.
All right. So how's retirement treating you? Do you miss calling games?
Well, yeah, I do. I'll always miss calling games. And, you find, and I'm sure all retired play-by-play guys go through the same thing. You watch a game and you imagine what you would say at this moment, particularly, late in a basketball game where it's close and there are a lot of timeouts. You wondered what you would say. And so I will always miss calling games. But I also enjoy retirement very much. I love the idea that when I get up in the morning, I don't have to be somewhere.
Right.
And there are times where I will go for days and days without getting in the car going anywhere, especially, in the last year during the pandemic. I've only been out of the state of Connecticut once since the pandemic started. But I enjoy retirement very much. I enjoyed my career, and I'm also enjoying my retirement very much.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Us guys here at the Man Hour, myself, Buckheister, and Wyatt, we all are doing this full time and trying to make something of it. But we also, all three of us also have full-time jobs, and Wyatt also goes to school. He's still hasn't graduated high school yet. So we know all about can't wait until we're in your shoes where we can just stay home and not have to worry about anything. But, we're a long ways away from that anyway. So let me ask, let's go into calling games. It's something that has always been a dream of mine. Like I really want to get into calling baseball. And I know Wyatt, he works a lot with the Indiana High School Association, and he calls a lot of their games. He just called the state championship games down in southern Indiana. So we're really interested in the life of being a broadcaster itself. What is it like to become a broadcaster, for one, like the journey to it, and then how do you really get into being, calling it on the highest levels?
Well, it helps if that's what you always wanted to do, and it's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but then when I realized that was not going to happen, then I decided to shift gears. And then I decided I want to become a play-by-play announcer. And I was 10 years old when I made that decision. And I never outgrew the dream. And everything that I did after that was with the idea of chasing that dream. Probably the most important decision I made was the decision to attend Seton Hall University because of the reputation of its campus radio station, WSOU. So I went there and was heavily involved in the radio station for 4 years. I got a chance to call 60 games while I was a student. So I had a lot of practical on-air experience, albeit at the college level by the time I graduated. And then it's just a case of working your way up. I didn't do any play-by-play in my first job out of college, but that was only 3.5 months long. And then I got a better job. And then I started doing high school basketball and high school football play-by-play. And then my third job, I did Yale basketball and then Fairfield University basketball. And then I kind of made a sideways step and became a local TV sports anchor for 19 years. And I had very few play-by-play opportunities during those 19 years. It was definitely a good career move at that point. But by the time I left there, the play-by-play opportunities had increased so much, especially on TV. And then that's when I started working for ESPN and started doing games for them. And also other, I did some games for Fox. I did the UConn women's basketball local TV package. And so, I love doing it. And it's, I guess to answer your question, the more games you do, the more opportunity people who hire have to hear you, and hopefully they like what they hear. And just like anything else with repetition, you ought to get better. If you don't, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think one of my great regrets is that I didn't keep track of how many games I did. I'm sure it was over 1,000, but I wish I knew the exact number. But I love them all. And whenever I watch a game, particularly college basketball, since the overwhelming majority of games I did were college basketball, it always reminds me of games I did in that arena. Oh, I remember when I did this and they played.
All right, Man Hour Nation, welcome back to the show. I am very honored right now to be able to have a guest on with me at this time. Retired play-by-play man, 40-plus years in the business. If you ask me, he's one of the best to ever do it. His name is Bob Picozzi. Bob, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Brandon. It's snowing here today, but I've lived in New England since 1973, so I'm almost getting used to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm here in Chicago, and I spent 15 years up in Vermont, so I know all about cold and snow and all that other good stuff. One of the big reasons why I can't wait to hopefully move southeast at some point in my life.
So you decided to escape the snow and move to tropical Chicago. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in Chicago and then went to Marine Corps. And after the Marine Corps, I spent about 15 years up in Vermont. So, I've always been a cold weather guy, unfortunately, because I really do hate the snow, even though I've never moved out of it. But it's definitely not for me. I'm a warm weather guy. I'm a baseball guy, so I like the summer, Bob.
Yeah, so do I.
All right, so how's retirement treating you? Do you miss calling games?
Well, yeah, I do. I'll always miss calling games, and you find. I'm sure all retired play-by-play guys go through the same thing. You watch a game and you imagine what you would say at this moment, particularly, late in a basketball game where it's close and there are a lot of timeouts. You wondered what you would say, and so I will always miss calling games, but I also enjoy retirement very much. I love the idea that when I get up in the morning, I don't have to be somewhere.
Right.
And there are times where I will go for days and days without getting in the car, going anywhere, especially, in the last year during the pandemic. I've only been out of the state of Connecticut once since the pandemic started. But I enjoy retirement very much. I enjoy my career, and I'm also enjoying my retirement very much.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Us guys here at the Man Hour, myself, Buckheister, and Wyatt, we all are doing this full time and trying to make something of it. But we also, all three of us, also have full time jobs, and Wyatt also goes to school. He's still hasn't graduated high school yet, so we know all about can't wait until we're in your shoes, where we can just stay home and not have to worry about anything. But we're a long ways away from that anyway. So let me ask, let's go into calling games. It's something that has always been a dream of mine. Like I really want to get into calling baseball. And I know Wyatt, he works a lot with the Indiana High School Association, and he calls a lot of their games. He just called the state championship games down in southern Indiana. So we're really interested in the life of being a broadcaster itself. What is it like to become a broadcaster, for one, like the journey to it, and then how do you really get into being, calling it on the highest levels?
Well, it helps if that's what you always wanted to do, and it's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but then when I realized that was not going to happen, then I decided to shift gears. And then I decided I want to become a play-by-play announcer. And I was 10 years old when I made that decision. And I never outgrew the dream. And everything that I did after that was with the idea of chasing that dream. Probably the most important decision I made was the decision to attend Seton Hall University because of the reputation of its campus radio station, WSOU. So I went there and was heavily involved in the radio station for 4 years. I got a chance to call 60 games while I was a student. So I had a lot of practical on-air experience, albeit at the college level, by the time I graduated. And then it's just a case of working your way up. I didn't do any play-by-play in my first job out of college, but that was only 3.5 months long. And then I got a better job. And then I started doing high school basketball and high school football play-by-play. And then my third job, I did Yale basketball and then Fairfield University basketball. And then I kind of made a sideways step and became a local TV sports anchor for 19 years. And I had very few play-by-play opportunities during those 19 years. It was definitely a good career move at that point. But by the time I left there, the play-by-play opportunities had increased so much, especially on TV. And then that's when I started working for ESPN and started doing games for them. And also other, I did some games for Fox. I did the UConn women's basketball local TV package. And so, I love doing it. And it's, I guess to answer your question, the more games you do, the more opportunity people who hire have to hear you, and hopefully they like what they hear. And just like anything else with repetition, you ought to get better. If you don't, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think one of my great regrets is that I didn't keep track of how many games I did. I'm sure it was over 1,000, but I wish I knew the exact number. But I love them all. And whenever I watch a game, particularly college basketball, since the overwhelming majority of games I did were college basketball, it always reminds me of games I did in that arena. Oh, I remember when I did this and they played and that kind of thing. And I have a pretty good memory, and all of those memories are very warm ones.
Yeah, so that is what Wyatt is on the trajectory of. So Wyatt started out, really early. His sophomore year of high school, starts calling games, and he knows that that's what he wants to do. Me, on the other hand, I've just always been a sports junkie, and after high school, I went into the Marine Corps, and then after that, I became a carpenter, and I always had this, this little dream of wanting to just do sports all the time, talk sports like I am now. But I'm gonna be 40 next month, Bob. So I'm a little late to the game. I've got some, a whole lot of growing to do. This man hour gig has been absolutely phenomenal. We are doing great things with it. But in order to get there and call games at the highest level, you probably really do have to start early, don't you?
Well, it helps, but again, I made the so I told you I was in local TV for 19 years.
Yep.
And then I left local TV because they didn't renew my contract. So they kind of they forced my hand. It was really the first and fortunately only time my career was ever at a crossroads. And I was 46 years old, and I had a lot of radio play-by-play experience. I had done, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 games on TV during those 19 years at the local TV level. But, I was taking a gamble at that point. I decided I didn't want to continue doing that.
Right.
Didn't want to continue being a local TV sports anchor. And I wanted to get back to my first love, which was play-by-play. So I picked the brains of at least 50 people to ask them whether they thought that was a realistic goal, given my age. And the feeling was unanimous. I mean, I've known Bill Raftery forever. Bill was hired as the coach at Seton Hall when I was a junior, and I did the games for the student radio station. So I've known him since then and have stayed in touch with him since then. And so I remember out of all the advice I got, his probably resonated the most. And he said, with your experience and your talent and your contacts, and all three of those are equally important, said you absolutely can do it. And he said, you'll probably find that it'll take a while to grow. But the more people who hear your work, the more people will want to hire you. And that's exactly the way it worked out. So I made that jump. It's not that I didn't have any play-by-play experience, but I was 46 years old when I made that jump into doing TV play-by-play. In hindsight, I wish I did it much earlier, because I think I would have had a chance to, first of all, I would have had a chance to enjoy so many more years of doing play-by-play. And I probably, there's no doubt in my mind, I would have a chance to ascend a little bit higher on the ladder. The best way to start is to do it at the local high school level, and to understand that you're not going to make much money. Right. And then you just listen to your tapes. And also it's a good idea to ask someone to critique your tapes. Mm-hmm. And when I was a senior in college, you're bemoaning the fact you're about to turn 40. I'm amused. On June 4th, I'll turn 70. And I'm a Jersey guy. So if you're my age and you wanted to become a play-by-play announcer, and you're from New Jersey or New York or Connecticut, there's a real good chance your hero, your idol, was Marv Albert. And he was mine. I was always a Rangers fan. I was never a Knicks fan, but I used to listen to Marv all the time when he was only on radio. And my college roommate senior year said, why don't you send Marv a tape and see if he'll critique it? I said, what, are you out of your mind? Why would he do that? He says, what do you have to lose? The cost of a stamp, and you don't get your tape back. So I did it. And about 10 days later, the tape came back in the mail with a handwritten note that said, I listened to your tape. If you want me to go over it with you, call me at this number at such and such a time. And I did. And he spent about 20 minutes on the phone with me, and it was great.
Oh, wow.
And I can remember to this day some of the things he told me. And so, as you can imagine, if he did that for me, he had no idea who I was, he must have done it for everyone. Right. So I decided at that point, if ever anyone thinks that I have anything to say that might be of some value to them, I will always do it. And that's been my mantra ever since then. And people all the time, they're asking me if I'll watch or listen to their tapes, and I do, and I give them some critique. And they and from doing it for all these years, you get pretty good at recognizing things, and where they can prove this is good, this is not so good, and that kind of thing. But the only way you get better is to listen to your tapes and to hear what you're doing and to hear things. Probably the greatest mistake you make is you tend to be repetitious, saying the same thing over and over again, whereas you could use a different word or words to describe the same thing and not be so repetitive. But the only way you're going to find that out is by watching and listening to your work.
That's great information. For me, that's very very encouraging to hear, because I really thought that I was starting late in the game, but to hear that there's still a shot to do things at a high level, it's very encouraging.
Well, let me just point this out, Brandon, and you being in Chicago now, you'll appreciate this. One of the people who reached out to me to ask them to watch their tape, and in this case, it was listen to the tape. It was a radio, and it was when he was in college, and then he sent me another one when he was out in the business after a year or two, and he was grateful for the advice I gave him. It's a guy named Jason Benetti.
Okay, yeah.
And it's funny what a small world it is. I referenced my college roommate, John Hugelmeyers from Towson, Maryland, and John's nephew was a student at Syracuse and was a very good friend of Jason. And one time over a long weekend, or maybe it was spring break, Jason came to Maryland to visit Scott, John's nephew, and John met him and he asked him what he's studying. When he found out what he was studying, he says, well, you know who you ought to talk to? You ought to talk to my college roommate, so-and-so. So Jason did, and I listened to it. And then a couple of years later, I'm doing the Big East women's basketball tournament, the semifinals at the Hartford Civic Center, and DePaul is playing UConn in one of the games. And I'm at the morning shoot-around for DePaul, and after the shoot-around, you meet with the coaches. And I've known Doug Bruno forever, and Doug said, Bob, do you mind if our radio play-by-play guy sits in on this conversation? And I said, no, not at all. And he says, Bob, this is Jason Benetti. And I didn't even know that Jason was doing the games. So, and then Jason and I wound up working on the same team at ESPN. So, yeah, I'm always willing to do that. And I strongly recommend people who are just starting out in the business that they try to do the same thing, that they get someone in the business to listen to their work and offer a critique.
That's great. And, Jason Benetti is a fine play-by-play guy for the Chicago White Sox. I am a Chicago Cubs fan, and they actually just took a guy from our play-by-play booth, which is Len Casper, over to their side to do radio. And he's leaving TV to do radio. And a lot of the Cubs fans were upset, obviously. He's going to the South Side. We love listening to Len Casper call games. But his preference has always been radio. Like, he's always wanted to do radio, and he felt like this was the perfect time, the perfect opportunity for him to jump over to the radio side and be able to call games. What's for you, what is the difference, or is there a preference between TV and radio, and what would you prefer to do?
Well, I did a ton of radio at the beginning of my career, and then I did all TV in the last 20 years, with one exception. I did one game for ESPN Radio, and I was terrible because I hadn't done a radio game in years, and I knew the transition would be tough, and it was 10 times tougher than I thought it would be. There's no question it requires much more ability and skill to do it on radio. It's not even close. When you're making the transition from radio to TV, the first thing, most important thing you have to learn to do is to cut down on what you say, by tenfold, because you would drive people crazy if you talked as much in doing a game on TV as you did on radio. But the transition going from TV to radio, you have to remember that you have to keep talking. So this was I was doing a Florida-Georgia football game, which was a really good assignment for ESPN Radio. And it's just tough to break a 20-year habit. And as they break the huddle, you have to lay out the offense, and how many wide receivers there are, and how many tight ends, and where they are, and is the quarterback under center, or is he in the shotgun, et cetera, and just remind you. I'm sure if I had done another game, I would have been that much better. But I can understand Len feeling that way. Now, unfortunately, and it's not the least bit fair, you are compensated much greater doing games on TV than you are in radio. So it's an interesting move that Len made, but I admire him for doing that if that's his first love. And also, baseball is a great radio sport.
Yes.
Baseball is a much greater radio sport than any, because of the pace of play. Baseball is my favorite sport. I love nothing more than to sit on the beach, because being from New Jersey, I love the beach, and listening to a baseball game.
Yeah, people call me crazy because, if I'm driving around and I can't watch the game on TV. Now I'm a Cubs fan, but I'm a baseball guy. Like I'll watch 1,000 games a year, and not even that's a little bit light for me as 1,000 games a year, because I watch as much baseball as I can, but I really love listening to the games on the radio. One of my favorite color commentators came from sports radio, which was on the Cubs side, which was Ron Santo. The way and how enthusiastic he was about the Cubs, I just love listening to it. I love listening to the game. There were times where I would turn down the TV broadcast while I'm watching it on TV and turn up the radio broadcast just so I could listen to Ron Santo, on the call. And that is it's something about when you love the game, you can actually sit there and listen to it on the radio. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I actually love the fact that you just said that, because it's one of my great loves as well.
Well, I think you have to love baseball to understand it, and I love baseball, and I'm sure you sound like you would understand it. To try to explain to someone who doesn't like baseball why you love it, they'll never understand it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So and I have Sirius in my car, and I mean that's the greatest invention since ice cream, right? Because you can listen to. What I'll do is I'll listen to all the games. At each commercial break, I'll try another broadcast, because in addition, to enjoy listening to the game, I like to listen to all the different announcers.
Correct. Yeah, that's the same way that I am. I love watching. So I'll watch Cubs games, and sometimes I'll flip over if I'm out of market. I'll flip over to a Cubs game and flip over to the visitors broadcast just to hear what their broadcasters are like. Right. So yeah, no, it's something that I do love. One thing about baseball, and I'm curious to hear your take about it, and we've gotten into this subject a lot here lately on our show, is the steroid era, and how the Baseball Writers of Association of America are dealing with the steroid era, like not voting anybody in this year. So I'm curious to hear your take on the steroid era, because my take is that baseball made a ton of money off of the steroid era, and when their hand got caught in the cookie jar, so to speak, they kind of threw the players under the bus, and now the players are really the ones paying the price for it. I'm curious to hear what your take is on that.
Well, I certainly understand why anyone, not the least of which are the Hall of Famers themselves, mm-hmm. who feel the way they do about people who use PEDs, and how it was not a level playing field. It's such a complicated issue, because if you follow the career, Barry Bonds, I don't believe ever tested positive, but I think you're not going to find many people who don't believe that he used PEDs. Right. Roger Clemens was in the Mitchell report, and certainly you're not going to find many people who didn't believe he used them. And Alex Rodriguez obviously did test positive, but I think if you follow the game closely, you have to understand they were great players before we think they started using. I mean, right. I don't believe Roger Clemens used until after he left Boston. Well, he's a pretty good pitcher for the Red Sox. He won 3 Cy Young Awards and an MVP award there.
Right.
But then, so that's the part that makes it difficult. How do you navigate that? Were Clemens and Bonds and A-Rod Hall of Fame players, before they started using PEDs? The answer could very well be yes.
Right.
And if the answer is yes, I think I would vote for them. But that's why when people ask me who's the greatest at this and that, I'm going to give you two different answers. One that completely disregards PEDs and one that disqualifies people because of PEDs.
Right.
If you ask me who the greatest left fielder was in baseball history, if you disregard the PEDs, it was Barry Bonds.
Correct.
But if you want to disqualify him because we think that he used PEDs, it would be Ted Williams. And, you know, and I would do that. I think Clemens is the greatest right-handed pitcher in baseball history if you discount the PEDs when you look at all of his accomplishments. So I don't know. I think I probably side with the Bob Costas school of thought that, you know, I'd probably vote for them, but there should be a notation on their plaque that is applicable and that is fact-based about whatever their involvement was with PEDs.
Yeah, and I'm a big. It's funny. The ball that sits over here on my shoulder is actually a Barry Bonds autographed baseball, and I'm a big fan of Barry Bonds. I think Barry Bonds is the greatest player to ever step on the field. You look at the numbers, you look at the things that he did throughout his career. I'm on that bandwagon that Barry Bonds is the greatest of all time. But then you look at like I was talking about, Baseball Writers of America not voting for these guys. It's almost like they decide who they like because there's a overwhelming majority that believe that next year a guy like David Ortiz is going to get in, and he has a positive test on his record, but he is very well liked among the media, and Barry Bonds was not for whatever reason, you know. So I feel like, and then you look at guys like Ty Cobb who got in and their background and stuff that you hear about them, and it's almost like they're drawing a moral compass line, and you tend to wonder, you know, where does that moral compass line stop? But
well, I mean, you know, Pete Rose is in his own separate category because that has been the law of the land since the Black Sox scandal. Yeah. It is a rule, and the sign is on the clubhouse door everywhere. So he violated that rule. And not only does everyone know what the rule is, but they know what the penalty is that comes with the rule.
Agreed.
And there's a reason why since the Black Sox scandal, there's only been really one person that's been involved and linked with betting, right? And it's right because it's a deterrent, and the deterrent has worked. You know, Ty Cobb, I'm sure what you're referring to is a pretty good indication through history that Ty Cobb was a racist. Yep. Well, being a racist doesn't directly affect. Look, there's no one on earth I despise more than racists, but that doesn't affect what you did on the field. Using steroids does. So I'm not so sure I agree with you with the popularity or the unpopularity. I don't know who would be. I don't know who would be a good case. The problem with Andy Pettitte was very popular with the media and very popular with the fans. The problem is his Hall of Fame credentials are borderline anyway. Personally, I would vote for him because he's got 18 postseason wins, which is the most ever. And he played on 5 championship teams. And also he is, I'm pretty sure about this. I think there are only 2 pitchers in baseball history who finished 100 games over 500 and who are eligible for the Hall of Fame, who are not yet in the Hall of Fame. And they are Roger Clemens, and we know why, and the other one's Andy Pettitte. So, and you know, Pettitte hasn't received any significant support so far. I'm not suggesting that Pettitte's resume is anywhere near as great as Clemens' resume, but I don't think you're going to find anyone who says, well, I'm not voting for Pettitte because I don't like him, because Pettitte was universally liked. And, you know, the way he handled it, he fessed up. He said, yes, I did it. This is why I did it, to rehab from an injury. But I don't know what the answer to that is. I can certainly appreciate how the hardline Hall of Famers, and most of them are hardliners, don't want to have anything to do with people with a PED history getting into their hallowed halls.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Pete Rose, because that's one of the arguments I always get is, well, if you're going to let these guys in, then Pete Rose definitely needs to be in. Well, you know, what changed? I used to be on that camp too. I used to be like, well, what Pete Rose did on the field, I mean, it's unquestionable. But the gambling on the game, what changed my mind was actually a conversation with one of his former teammates, and he said, look, he's never getting in, and he shouldn't be in because he gambled on the game, and it's the one rule that we all know, and he broke it. So that's kind of what changed my mind was that view of it. You know, and I think the steroids era is just a different topic, and it's a debate that is going to go on forever, I'm sure. But you know, I guess we'll see. Time will tell whether or not these guys get in. I believe that they should be in. Others believe that they shouldn't be in, and ultimately, I don't get a vote. So that's the one thing that remains to be the same, is I don't get a vote, so I don't get to say who gets in. So before I let you go here, I do want to get back into your times as a play-by-play guy. I got a couple of fun questions I'd like to ask you. First and foremost, what is your favorite memory calling a game?
Well, I don't think that there's a definitive answer to that question. So I'll answer it two different ways. I had done, as I said, games on local radio at the beginning of my career. And then when I went to work for ESPN, I did games on a regional basis. Back then, the Big East Network, the games were produced by ESPN Regional Television in Charlotte. And they were just that. They were regionally televised. They would always be in the markets of the two participating teams, and they would frequently be on in other Big East markets where the team in that market didn't have a game that night. They might be on as many as 40 different TV stations, but they weren't nationally televised. And the first time that I did a game on national TV was an NCAA. I also did a lot of women's college basketball. Was an NCAA women's basketball tournament game, a second round game at the University of Texas in March of 2002. And as I was walking into the Irwin Arena in Austin that night, I was well aware of the fact that this was the first time I was going to do a game that was going to be on nationally. It doesn't change the way you prepare, nor change the way you call the game. And I never once thought about it once I was on the air, but it kind of hit me as I walked into the arena. But probably the most memorable game I called, I did the America East Men's Basketball Championship game for a number of years, and it was a Stony Brook at Albany game. And the America East is one of these leagues where they play the championship game on the home floor of the higher seed of the two finalists, and the atmosphere is off the charts. Right. Because it's obviously a one-bid league. You either win the conference championship game and go to the NCAA tournament, or you go home. You know, there's never going to be an America East team that's going to get an at-large berth in the NCAA tournament. So Albany had a player from Australia named Peter Hooley. And Peter, between the time he signed his letter of intent to go to Albany and the time he actually left for school, his mom was diagnosed with cancer. So at first, he didn't want to go. But she convinced him to go. Don't worry about it. You know, I'll be fine. I'll get the treatments. You know, your dad's here. Your sister's here to take care of me. I'll be fine. So he went off to school. And then I think it was his senior year. I'm not 100% sure about that. His mom started her condition took a turn for the worse. And his dad said, you know, I think you better come see her. So he took a leave of absence and he went home, and he essentially sat vigil in her hospital room for 14 days, and then she passed away. And then he took a little more time off, and this is during the basketball season, and then he decided it's time to go back to school. And his dad and sister went with him because they felt he would need that support system. And they didn't stay very long because they saw that he had another family, the Albany basketball team and the coaches and the student body who all knew about it. And he had a tremendous support system there. So they went back home. So now fast forward, it's the conference championship game, and his team is losing by 2 points, and he hits a three-pointer from the top of the circle with 3 seconds left to win the conference championship game and send them to the NCAA tournament. And the students stormed the floor, and someone had an Australian flag and draped it around him. And I did the game with Tim Welsh, the former Iona and Providence college coach. And Tim interviewed Peter on the floor, and he's got the Australian flag around his shoulder. And the shot wasn't clean. It was a rim rattler and went in. And he said, I think my mom, you know, helped with a little body English there to send it in. And it was just, so it was the whole scene. You know, I think we did a pretty good job. of setting up the storyline early in the broadcast and then having to revisit the storyline when he made the game-winning shot. So for those reasons, that was memorable. It's the America East is always the first championship game that's played on that Saturday before Selection Sunday, and there are about 15 conference championship games that are played that day, and so ESPN has games wall to wall, and they, you know, at halftime and between games they're going to the studio, and they must have played that highlight, you know, 20 times over the course of the day.
Yeah.
And so then the next day, you know, they had Peter on live and everything. So that was an unforgettable moment for me.
Yeah, that's one of those moments that every time you see it gives you chills, or hear it gives you chills. Those are always my favorite sports moments. For me, it's always going to be the last out of 2016 World Series. Like I still get tears when I watch it, just because, you know. But those stories are always my favorite. Now, the last question I want to ask you before you get out of here might be the toughest question I've asked you since we've been on. Who was the color analyst that you had the most fun with during your career?
Well, that's not tough at all. I mean, first of all, I had fun with a lot of them, but the one that I had the most fun with was Bill Raftery.
Okay.
And it has everything to do with the fact that I've known him forever. And it was interesting. Of course, Bill was at the very top of the food chain. As you know, he does the Final Four for CBS. So he always did games for Big East, for ESPN and CBS. And then when the Big East fell apart and rechristened as a new league, Fox got the TV rights. So since he had been so closely identified with the Big East throughout the history of the league, first as a coach at Seton Hall and then as a broadcaster, he decided he wanted to continue doing Big East games. So he left ESPN and he now does games for CBS and Fox. And for whatever reason, in his final year at ESPN, they assigned him to work with me for 3 games. And it was a blast. The games were a blast. The night before was a blast. And, you know, I was an ESPN radio Sports Center anchor for 18 years. And first 14 years was during the show Mike and Mike. So one time Bill was a guest on Mike and Mike, and the format changed over the years. But for a while, they would go to a commercial break, and out of the break, they would have my Sports Center, and then Golick and Greenberg would come back on. So Bill was the guest in the next segment. So my Sports Center aired, and then they came on, and they welcomed in Bill Raftery, and Bill had been on hold. You know, he was on the phone, and you know, on hold you hear programming. So he heard me in the Sports Center. And so they welcomed him in, and he said it was nice to hear my old friend Bob Picozzi. And, you know, this is like at 6:20 in the morning or 6:40 in the morning. And he said when Bobby was at Seton Hall, the only time he was ever awake at this hour was when he was just getting in from the night before. And so, which, first of all, is only partially true. And talk about the pot calling the kettle black when it comes to that. But it was so much fun doing games with Bill. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. I still stay in touch with him all the time. He's been great to me throughout my career. He's helped me in many, many ways. And so getting a chance to do a couple games with him was just an absolute blast.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Well, Bob, you know, thank you for joining us here on the show today. I will talk with you here in a few seconds just off camera. But I appreciate everything you have. It's been an absolute honor, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining the Man Hour.
It was my pleasure, Brandon.
Commissioner Cooper from TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. That means we give the people what they want. Expert fantasy advice, leading medical and legal analysis, free contests, and innovative games to keep you entertained. Watch us live with the Tiki Live app on the Belly Up Sports channel, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on all social media platforms. Visit TSSFantasy.com today for all the latest updates from the fantasy show of the people. We put the fun in fantasy.
Yeah!
Said the mayo.
Over sour cream, yeah.
Right. That's because you have high cholesterol. Okay. If you drafted Julio Jones,
you got ghosted.
This is amazing. TSS Fantasy is like an orgasm. If I had a cigarette, I'd smoke it. I'm pumped to be here. This is the show of shows.
TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
I was built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past. I'm achieving. Got my foot on the gas. Never stop competing. If you break my glass, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic, you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic. Go to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving.
A comment made after the White Sox Astros game last night that the Astros possibly could be cheating again. Ryan Tepera after the game said you just have to look at it. You have to look at their swing and miss ratio at Minute Maid compared to their swing and miss ratio on the road. So I did. And their swing to miss ratio at home compared to on the road, when they are on the road, they have 400 over the season, over 400 more swing and misses on the road. That's a lot. That is a lot. That's an average of about 6 per game. But that's a lot. And maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe it's not trash cans this time. I have heard, people talking about whistling. The Yankees had actually said something about whistling coming from their dugout earlier in the season. The Oakland A's took exception to maybe some whistling from the dugout coming from the Oakland A's this season. There's something to it. 400 more swing and misses on the road than at home. That is a ton of swing and misses. And then Dusty Baker wants to come out today and say, well, if you're going to accuse me, you gotta look at yourself. No, Dusty. We have to look at the team that just got caught for this last year. The reason why you're the manager is because of this scandal. And it's still the same players. You wouldn't be the manager of this Houston Astros team if it wasn't for the fact that they all got a deal and got out of trouble for snitching on everybody who was doing it. And then the managers took the brunt of the blow. It's atrocious. And there's absolutely 110% something to it. Just look at the numbers. That's the eye test.